Now, you've probably calculated an average before, and if so, you know that the average of a value is the sum of all the values divided by the number of observations. So if we're doing daily low temperature value, we know that we need to take the sum first, and we need to add all these values up. Now we know using Excel's equation formula tools that we can put an equal sign here, and we can ask Excel to add all these numbers up for us, right? We can just use our plus signs, we can click on every single cell here, and we get these cool cell referencing color codes, right? And let's pause here to remember our cell referencing system is working for us. We're going to add the value C2 to C3 to C4 and so on and so on and so on. Color coded, we have our equation here. This is going to ensure an error-free calculation, but the problem is you can see that this is already very tedious. And so we're already going to skip ahead from using these manual equations to using something in Excel called functions. So we'll start over here. A function is a built-in tool in Excel that will do some mathematical work for us. Here I'm going to use the sum function. If I use the sum function, I need to give this function some information. That information is held in parentheses. What do I want to sum? I want to sum all of these values. Just click and drag all over the cells, and you see we have our cell reference notation for a range here. We want to sum up the values from cell C2 all the way to C13. I'll close out those parentheses and hit enter, and we get that sum right there. As we've seen before, we can always click on the formula bar and get that color-coded information to double check and make sure that we're summing up the full sets of numbers there. So here's our first function, the sum function, and it's already saved us a lot of time because we don't have to keep adding all these cells together, even though it's only 12 values. Speaking of 12 values, we know if we're going to calculate the average, we need to divide this sum by that total number of values. We know it's 12, but we can and should also use a tool to help us with that because maybe in the future we're going to add more values to the spreadsheet. It's not always going to be 12. So we might want to use the count function to tally up all those for us so that we're always updated with how many observations we have in the data set. Then finally, now that we have this information, we know that we can divide the sum using the slash sign for division by the count to come up with our average value. So what we see here is we see that average value. Our average low temperature for a month is 48.7 degrees Fahrenheit in the area where I live, across the entire year. But you'll notice that I still used this mathematical, arithmetic way of writing this equation. But just like we have a sum function and we have a count function, we also have an average function. And so just by typing in average, and then again, putting in the correct information in the parentheses, we can skip all of these steps, and we can get that same exact value, that average value of 48.7 degrees. So each one of these little things I was showing you, each one of these functions, the sum function, the count function, the average function, is saving us additional time and additional effort. And really importantly, it's saving us the opportunity to be making mistakes. These are called functions. We're going to be using a lot of them in Excel. And you see that I was referring to cell referencing again. And so we're starting to see that useful information that we've acquired, that knowledge that we've acquired about cell referencing coming back into play. And we're going to use a lot more of it in a minute when we explore more about how to use functions in Excel.